Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of Video Game Memories. This was an open tag, open challenge issued by Smash JT and WoodBarionRetroGame Hunter. Check out those channels, links are in the description. WoodBarion's kind of cool because I was watching a Kane Deathbreaker video one night. This is sort of way off topic. And the next video up, I was downstairs playing darts, drinking beer like a chucklehead. And the next video that came up was WoodBarionRetroGame Hunter, and it was like massive SNES, NES, RPG, mega super haul, best video game pickup ever of all time. So I was watching, I was like, man, this is a really cool, like, down-to-earth, good dude. So I reached out to him. I actually got Castlevania 4. We traded, and I got an extra copy of Castlevania 4. So WoodBarionRetroGame Hunter, I love you, brother. Okay, back on topic. So in the last video, we talked about sort of my childhood gaming memories, which encompass Master System, some Atari, and mainly the Nintendo Entertainment System. So in this episode, part 2 of part 3, we're going to talk about like 1993, Christmas of 93 to August of 2001. And that's when I probably did the most amount of gaming. So let's just take a quick look. In Christmas of 1993, go to my parents' house. It's Christmas time. I'm trying to paint a picture. There's a lot of people around. We do Christmas at my house. Then we go to my grandparents' house and we do Christmas and Christmas dinner there. And under the tree, there's, a couple presents for the kids and everybody else. Most of the adults do like gift exchange type thing. And my brother and I saw this box in the back of the tree. The big presents always go in the back of the tree, or, where you get all the little presents out of the way first, then the big gift is in the back, right? And let me try and paint the picture here. You got the tree up, everybody's on the couch, there's plenty of food around, people are having conversations, you open your presents, and I remember, this is a sign of the times, man. My parents, we used to go to my grandparents' house for Christmas, and everybody would get stockings, but they would put cartons of cigarettes in my parents' and my uncle's stocking, because my parents smoked at the time, and I'm like, you would never do that nowadays. Put a carton of Winston Gold in somebody's stocking for Christmas. But what are we talking about? All right, so we opened this bad boy right here, the Super Nintendo. Now at that time, the Super Nintendo had been out for a couple years. Came out in 1991. And so we'd played. All of our friends had Super Nintendo, so we'd played the Marios and all that other stuff. But when we got our own, we were like, man, we've arrived. Even though there's always one kid in your neighborhood, Mike Burns, who has everything, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, Genesis, Nintendo, all of it, and he gets it right when it comes back. Interesting story about Mike, again, off topic. In his basement, he had cinder blocks, vertical, and then he had like plywood on top of the cinder blocks, and he had a Lego city built, like, in half of his basement. And like, I'm 6'1". He, no shit, had Lego buildings probably, 5'5", somewhere in there. And it was amazing. Because as a kid, you're like, whoa, you're looking up at these mountains of Legos. And it was just like, it was awesome. Anyway, bang, Super Nintendo. This is the Super Nintendo that my brother and I pulled out of the box in 1993. She's got a broken AC adapter in there. So if you ever buy a Super Nintendo, always turn it around and look to see if that gray plastic piece in there is broken off. If it is, try and get it at a discount. Or if you buy it, at least be cautious. Mine still works, and this is my everyday Super Nintendo. I haven't had any problems with it. But I'll never forget that it was 1993 when we got that Super Nintendo, because we got a game that I really, really wanted to play. And, you see it when you go to KB or Toys R Us or something, where it's on the shelf and you're like, man, I want that game so bad. And that is Jurassic Park. Greatest game of all time? Probably not. But a very good game, top-down sort of adventure action game. One fatal flaw, though. No save feature, no password system. And it can kind of get confusing where you need to go in that game, because the map screen isn't a great help, and you have to find certain key cards to let you into certain places, but still, a great game, worth a buy. I think it's under $10. Anyway, so I'm going to show you guys some games that I grew up with, and then we're going to move on to the next console. So, Champions World Class Soccer. I know, probably not going to hit home for a lot of you, but that was like the sweet spot for me when I was a kid. The World Cup was in 1990. I was like 11 or 12, 94, and then again in 98. And all of those years encompass the time frame that we're talking about. World Cup was huge in my life. I played soccer in high school, so yeah. NFL Quarterback Club 98. Not the greatest football game of all time. And we hardly ever played the football mode on that. But what we did play is there's a quarterback challenge mode where you can pick, like, some of you guys are going to know who the hell I'm talking about. Like Steve Young, Bernie Kosar, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, and you can play in a host of challenges like distance, who throws the ball the farthest, and targets moving across the screen, and you got to get your accuracy up. There's a little obstacle course. We had to like jump over something and then duck under something and then throw a pass. But yeah, we played more of that. Just like in Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball, we played more Home Run Derby than we actually played Frank Thomas Baseball like a season. Boom, here we go. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This was my fighting game of choice back in the day, and even still today. Like, I'll branch out and I'll play King of Fighters or whatever, but I always go back to Street Fighter. It's just so familiar. You know what I mean? Like, it was amazing. So my brother and I used to play the hell out of that game. We got so good where we could say, like, oh, you play as Chun-Li, or you play as, Zangief. And we would go through the whole game in single player mode and without dying. You know what I mean? Like, we got that good. Favorite franchise right here, man. Top notch. The Super Star Wars series. Before the Battlefronts came out, so pre-Battlefront, these, in my opinion, are the best Star Wars games out there. They're over the top. They're fun. They're colorful. They don't take themselves too seriously. But what they do is they introduce hardcore fans like me to characters that most people don't know, right? Like, most people know, Luke, Leia, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, that kind of stuff. But in these games, it's hilarious because there's like Dengar, Zuckuss, Forlom, Bosk, all those characters make an appearance. And if you don't know who they are, then you don't notice them. But this is my favorite Star Wars game. Super Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. It's also my favorite Star Wars movie. You start off flying the Snowspeeder in Hoth, which is awesome. That's always fun to just play that over and over again. I play that on the Nintendo 64. Just that one level over and over again. Okay, when I got this game, I then could care less about 8-bit Mega Man. This is Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo. I spent a long time playing this game, and I'm pretty good at it. I have a Let's Play down below if you want to check that out. I think it's a no-death run, except for the 4 deaths that are required for you to get the secret Hadouken punch, which kills enemies in one shot, which is awesome. But this was so much more advanced at the time, I thought, than the classic Mega Man. I thought, man, this is the best Mega Man game ever. And I don't think anybody would argue that it is or it isn't. We used to call it Mega Man 10, and we're like, well, what happened to Mega Man, 4 or 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, you know what I mean? But if the Super Nintendo had one killer app, like one app that just blew everybody away, had to be this game right here, in my opinion. Like I said, we'd already played Mario World, right? That was an extension of Mario 3. But when we got this game right here, Super Mario Kart, often imitated, never duplicated, #1 primo kart racer of all time, Super Mario Kart. You cannot go wrong with this franchise. People still love it to this day. My dad still talks about this game. This is the actual copy that we owned when I was a kid, and I'm proud to have it. And it was just amazing. Like, when you open the Special Cup and you play Rainbow Road for the first time, it blew people's mind because there wasn't kart racing. Kart racing wasn't a thing. Kart racing wasn't a thing until that game came out. And then in the next generation, the 5th generation, you had your Crash Team Racing, your, Metal Gear Konami Racing, your Mega Man Power and Chase, and you got so many clones out of that. And that's what tells you that a game changes the way we view gaming, or is a franchise that is worth playing because everybody else copies it. So, guys, that's my Super Nintendo stuff. Let's move on. Okay, so after the Super Nintendo, I went to high school in 1994, 94 to 97, and 1996 for Christmas, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, bought me this, the Nintendo 64. Awesome. You guys know I love Nintendo 64. A lot of the first-party games, the Marios, Donkey Kongs, all that stuff, those are all really good games. you have to kind of dig deeper into the library to find your, Star Soldiers and your mystical ninjas. But I remember that I was really, really excited to get this because it was mine. So all my consoles up until this point were for my brother and I, right? Shared consoles. This was the first console that I got that was for me, right? Because my girlfriend bought it for me, which was really awesome. That's why I married her, because she bought me a Nintendo 64. I'm actually looking for the box for the N64 that came with the extra Atomic Purple. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. The Atomic Purple controller, so I can put all those pieces back together and have it boxed just like I did back then. Also for Christmas that year, she got me Star Fox 64. Love this game. Can't say enough about Star Fox. I don't really like the Super Nintendo version of Star Fox, but I really like this version. I thought it looked good for the time. Again, context of time, 20 years ago, Star Fox on 64 was an amazing looking game, especially with the branching paths and the multiple vehicles, the dialogue back and forth, right? Do a barrel roll and, somebody help me out, all those kinds of things. Those are kind of cheesy, but I'll tell you, this game does something that shoot 'em ups need to take a learning point from, a lot from, and that is keep all your cutscenes and your dialogue and your storytelling, keep it down to a minimum, and let the player do what they want to do, and that's play the game, blow some stuff up. Boom, the next game I want to show you, GoldenEye 007. I've only loved 2 first-person shooter games in my life. This and Unreal Tournament for the PC. And GoldenEye 007 sort of really antithesis what the N64 was built for, and that is bring over some 4 controllers, sit down with your friends and have a good old time, have a party, playing a lot of these great titles that are 4-player titles like Mario Party, games like that. This game right here, Mario Kart 64, love this game. Still play this game to this day. A couple years ago when I first started my YouTube channel, Liquid Wayno put out a challenge. It was like Boo Castle or something. The Boo Boardwalk is the name of the level, and who could do it the fastest. And that was sort of a fun tag/challenge video. But back in the day, the battle mode on this was absolutely where it was at. And, to get a Mario Kart game on the Super Nintendo and then get it on the N64, you're like, how did they update the graphics? How did they make this game better? What are the better power-ups, And Mario Kart 64 certainly delivered on that front. So, all right, that covers all of my high school stuff. So everything after this is pretty much after high school, which I barely graduated, and on into the military. So here we go. Okay, so like I said, graduated high school in 97, went to boot camp. By the time I got to my first duty station, it was April of 1998, and I was kind of walking down the hall, introduced myself to some of the guys in the barracks, and they were hooting and hollering, and they were playing this right here, the Sony PlayStation 1. They were in there playing like NFL Game Day and Triple Play, and I was like, man, I've got to get one of these. So I went over to the Base Exchange at Camp Butler, and I picked one up. They had modded PlayStation 1s, these guys, and that was the first time I ever heard anything about having a modded system, but it played burnt games and, imports, stuff like that. Like an idiot, I sold that console when I got to Yuma and I wanted to buy a car. PlayStation, like I said, was the first console that I bought for myself, and what I loved about it was it came with a bunch of demo discs. You could, either get them for free or buy them for a couple bucks, or they'd come with magazines, Boom! That's how I discovered Tomb Raider. I played it on one of the demo discs. Love Tomb Raider, although I wouldn't recommend playing this version anymore. The PlayStation 2 Tomb Raider Anniversary is much better, but I love Tomb Raider, man. I love those types of games, those sort of action platformers with puzzle elements. A lot of times they sort of get repetitive, but, Uncharted 4, I'm looking at you. On one of those demo discs, there was this really awesome demo for a game called Einhander, and I knew as soon as that game was released, I was going to go over to Camp Butler, which was the Base Exchange, the big Base Exchange, and I was going to pick up a copy of Einhander. I love it, love it, love it. There is a playthrough on my channel down below, so check that out if you're interested in seeing what Einhander is all about. It's one of those games where, yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but that's one of those expensive games that's worth every penny. Here's a cheap game that's worth 20 times more than the $5 it goes for. This is Siphon Filter. I had an opportunity to get a burnt copy of this. That's how I played it. And then, of course, you buy the full version because I like to have true physical copies, manuals, and stuff like that. Third person action platformer puzzler. It's pretty awesome. There's some stealth missions in there and stuff like that to change it up. Hydro Thunder. Love Hydro Thunder. This is my favorite arcade racer of all time. And in my opinion, this is the best version of this game. It came out on the Dreamcast, the N64, and on the Midway Arcade Treasures Volume 3 collection. And if you had to say, Chris, what's your favorite PlayStation game of all time? I would have to say Metal Gear Solid. This game had me up for hours and hours and hours. And then when I finally beat it, I was told, hey, did you know there was a second ending? No. So I had to go back and beat it again. And when you get like the stealth suit, the ninja suit, that's pretty sweet. So guys, those are the PlayStation stuff that I want to talk about. I remember going to the arcades, and playing Hydro Thunder and the Sega Saturn, Daytona USA. And what else do we play? Area 51, Street Fighters, Mortal Kombat. Those are sort of my arcade tales. I don't really have a lot of them because I'm more of a homebody, so console gaming is perfect for me. All right, so after the PlayStation 1, man, we love playing that thing. And there was a game called Thrill Kill. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I had a burnt copy. I wish I would have kept it. It was a four-person, almost arena type fighter, like a Power Stone or something like that. But they were all like horror themed, like it was crazy. If you've heard of it, you know what I'm talking about. It was one of those games that Tipper Gore had on her hit list of games that are not suitable for life. And the only way you could play it was to get a burnt copy of it, which I wish I would have kept. But I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona. And if you ever have a choice to go there or not, go ahead and pass, go somewhere else, anywhere else. It's about as big as this bedroom, and there's a mall and an airport. It wasn't a good time. So we spent a lot of time in the barracks and on the base, him hauling around. And one day one of the guys came back and he's like, hey, I got this PlayStation 2. They had some at KB, which was a toy store in the mall. So we all go over to his room and we're checking out. He's like, it plays PlayStation 2 games and PlayStation 1 games. And we're like, what? No way. He's like, it plays CDs and it plays these things, these movies on disc. And we're like, what? How do they put a tape on a disc? That you can't do that. That's impossible. He goes, no, these are DVDs. These are awesome. So I was like, well, I got to get one. So I go down to the KB toy store. This is like a paycheck later or whatever. And they had a couple sitting in there. Boom. Here she is. Got this probably 2001, I think. And yeah, it was $399.99. But it came with 3 games of your choice. So I know I picked out NFL Game Day. I grabbed Tekken Tag, which I absolutely loved. I still love this game. Other than Street Fighter, this is one of my go-to fighting games for sure. But I forget what else I got. But I do remember this. She opened it, wrote down the serial number and everything. And she had a little form. And she gave me the form. I had to sign this form. And the form said that, if you're buying a PlayStation 2... because people will steal it from your cars, don't take it outside of the mall, put it in your car, and then come back inside, take it to your car, take it home, do whatever. If you feel like somebody's followed you home, notify the police. Like, this was a big deal back in the day, the PlayStation 2. I heard a story that, like, Russia bought, like, 400 of them or something because it was so powerful at the time. They wanted to use the technology in there for missiles. But... I don't know. Them crazy Russians. Gotta love them. I do have a PlayStation Slim in the box that I got at a garage sale this year for $20. It was either 20 or 25 bucks. Amazing. PlayStation 2 is an awesome console. They're cheap and it's got a huge library, and the genres, shooters, action, platformers, RPGs, racing games, fighting games. Really has a lot for everybody. So that's going to do it for this edition of Gaming Memories. I know you're like, Chris, you didn't tell us all the PlayStation games. I didn't because I got this in 2001 and I got out of the military in 2001, and I told you that that's where we're going to stop this video. So you'll hear more about the PlayStation 2 in part 3. Guys, check out Smash JT, Woodbarian Retro Game Hunter. Check out all my videos down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share, and we'll see you next time.